Good morning, traders. Today is October 4th. It's a Monday. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The Pirate Traders live stream. All right. Well, I wanted to start today stepping back just a little bit and taking a look at the daily charts once again. And of course, the reason is just as a reminder to everybody that whilst on Friday, particularly the second half of the day, the market felt extremely bullish and caused a lot of FOMO in the chat here on the live stream. A lot of people thinking that the bottom was in and we were going to get this massive V-shaped recovery and everything is amazing. And so I just wanted to step back this morning and start the day by saying if you just look at the daily chart here, you don't see anything spectacular. Right? It just kind of looks like a little bounce slightly below a previous low, but we're still making lower lows. The trend is still to the downside, and the market still feels very bearish. Now, does that mean that this could be the low and that will continue higher today? Of course, it's possible. It's possible that we work our way higher, but I'm coming into today pretty neutral, pretty flat on the idea that I'm not sure it's going higher or lower here. I got to wait and see. I'm certainly not bullish biased, right? So that's what the daily chart just kind of instantly is saying to me. Don't get overly excited about that bounce we had because it could still just be part of a larger down move, okay? So let's take a look at the market profile. Obviously, yesterday or Friday, we left behind a lot of weak references on the way up on both indices. In the form of single prints on the ES, we left multiple sets of single prints behind. And so the probability of those single prints being repaired is pretty high. And of course, the overnight did that. They worked their way down and they repaired the weak references, got into the first node of potential support, and then turned around and rotated back up. So that's somewhat bullish to see there, but there are some nuances that I'd like you to keep in mind, once again, to not let this information overly bias you long. First and foremost, I consider the overnight low weak. I don't normally look at the overnight low as a potential weak reference for intraday trade, but it was literally to the dot, to the tick, right on yesterday's opening price, right on Friday's open. Let me just zoom in a hair here. Come on, computer. Zoom in. Not out. Zoom in. All right. Well, due to that being frozen. Okay, yeah. So you can see it was right at yesterday's opening price, literally to the tick, and they only put in 6 contracts down there. So that's very weak to me. That doesn't necessarily mean that the regular trading hours needs to trade down there today, but just if it starts heading in that direction, that becomes a probable target for the market to hit that overnight low. And then also those single prints that we left behind from yesterday aren't officially repaired until the regular trading hours gets down to the base. So because we are opening above those single prints, here this morning, both sets, the H period and the I period single prints, they are still in play in terms of the market needing to repair them to come back down during regular trading hours and tag those two base of the single prints. So that generally becomes support, right? If all you had was one set of single prints, you would assume that the base here at 43.29.17 would be strong support for the market. But because you have the second set, that slightly negates the potential support in the first set and increases the odds you need to repair the second. So that's 2 levels to keep an eye on to the downside. Okay, market opening here and immediately getting a drive higher. But keep in mind we're opening inside the previous day's range, so we are still likely to get chop. As far as bullish continuation, I'd be looking at the very top node of volume that we left behind here from yesterday, which is also where the first part of the weekend did some rotating. So let's call that 43.50. Well, now it moved on me. 43.52.50. So if the market's able to get above that level, come back down and find support, I look for continuation to the upside. If we come up there and find resistance, it's a short for continuation of rotation. Keeping in mind, we still need to backfill these single prints during the regular trading hours. And so the market will chop. I also thought it was worth mentioning. I don't mean this as a like, I told you so type of thing. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But there was a point yesterday where on Friday, let me just zoom out here and stretch that out. Okay, so there was a point yesterday where the market pushed higher. It created all these single prints. Okay, and I was neutral in there, waiting for the market to come back down and backfill them. And then it pushed higher again, came back down and started to build support. It started to put in some of these red candles. I switched myself to bullish. The market took off for another push higher, pulled back down in. I switched myself back to neutral, feeling like these single prints needed to be backfilled, and that was the most important reference for the market. And then from that point where I switched back to neutral in here, the market then had another massive push higher. Okay? And sitting here live on Friday with you guys in the chat, somebody had said to me, I think we were right about in here, in this area. Come on. In this area right in here, somebody made the comment, well, geez, if this is what you look like when you're neutral, what do you look like when you're bullish? Or what does the market do when you're bullish? Kind of making fun of me that, like, why am I not bullish when the market is just continuing to push straight up? And this is, of course, why. Again, I'm not doing this to say I told you so, but to understand that from here, this move got too parabolic. It got too extreme. The market could not sustain it. And what did it do? It instantly went up and then came straight back down, and we did grinding around in here during the M period, right? And then in the overnight, they came back down all the way down to the base of those single prints, to where the market started to get a little bit unruly, got a little bit ahead of itself. The buyers started buying out of emotion, out of FOMO, and not out of good fundamentals. And so I just wanted to take this as a learning opportunity to remind people that's why I do that in the moment. That's why I force myself, even when you're feeling the FOMO and you're feeling like, oh, this market's just going to go straight up forever, you have to remind yourself, what is the market generated information telling me? The market generated information was telling me we needed to backfill these single prints and we needed to retest that 100 daily moving average, both of which we did in the overnight and both of which we still have a pretty decent probability of doing here in the regular trading hours. So I'm glad I wasn't FOMOing into long trades up here. Otherwise, I'd be getting squeezed right now. Are you feeling chop, chop, chop? Yeah. Okay, internals not giving us any great signals here. It looks like they're starting to bring in some support. NASDAQ looking a little bit weaker than the NYSE. Good morning, Chris. Good to see you. First one in the chat this morning. Naif, number 2. Good to see you. Mangala back with us. Good morning. Arthur is here. Good to see you. Nicholas, good morning. Fausto in the house. Good to see you. Jonathan is here bright and early. Good morning to you. Has it been the time change down there in Australia? Fausto, gap fill this morning above. Gap fill? What gap? Are you talking about this gap? Up at 44.06? Oh, we got a long way to go to get there. First, they got to break the downtrend on the daily. The market is still sort of in a bearish tone. They haven't quite convinced us they're ready to break out to the upside yet. They could. So this morning, obviously, all 3 possibilities are, in my mind, are pretty equal. So there's always 3 things the market can do: go up, go down, or go sideways. I could easily see the market just rotating in this range today, getting some acceptance of these prices. I could also see the pull back continuing. I could also see the push higher continuing. So that's why I'll choose to take it one node at a time. Can they get above this node here? In which case I will look for continuation up there. Get below this node here, in which case I'll look for continuation to the downside. And as long as they're just grinding around in the middle, I'll wait and see to get myself a better idea. Amir, good morning to you. Good to see you. John, good morning to you. Tom, good morning. Welcome. Arthur, kind of going down now? No, this is just chop. Right? Buyers and sellers, half think it's going to go up, half think it's going to go down. They're just picking each other's pockets. Nobody knows what's happening yet. Just chop. Philip, good morning to you. Jay Trader in the house. Good to see you. Mangala, Charles is a nerd genius. Neither a nerd nor a genius. Okay? I'm very cool. People like me. I do wear glasses, but I wear stylish glasses. Okay? And I'm definitely not a genius. Phoenix, good morning to you. Jose, good morning. Good to see you. Charles at 1.75 speed makes Charles at 1 speed sound high. Good morning, guys. Today is Wednesday, October 4th. Here's what's happening in the market. Yo, bro. Is it going to find support at yesterday's POC, or are we going down to test those single prints, bro? I don't know. Far out. I don't know why I just went into 70s, pothead, but that just happened. Mangala VIX is heading down. I don't do a lot of trading off the VIX. Bigger picture, I like to keep track of what's happening with it, but intraday I don't pay much attention. It doesn't tickle my fancy. JG, good morning to you. Mangala, no trade so far, not for me. So we're 1 tick away from the base of those single prints from the I period. That's the first potential support. But like I said, because we have that other set of single prints, the H period below, that slightly increases the odds that we're going to need to head down and check those out for support there. Jay, that was me laugh out loud. Or are you the person I was referring to yesterday? Yeah. Well, the reason I bring it up this morning is because I was annoyed that we didn't pull back to the base of single prints in the M period yesterday. Like, I felt like that would have been such a good learning moment to be like, you see, this is why you don't get bullish during FOMO. You wait, and then it didn't give it to us. So this morning when I saw that it had in the overnight, I felt vindicated. Also worth remembering, we got a poor low all the way at the low Friday, if I remember correctly. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Poor low down there in need of repair as well. So if when we get down here to where the overnight low is, okay, first set of single prints are backfilled. There we go. So if we do come down here to repair this weak low from the overnight, and the market seems to be getting resistance in here, it can't get back above this node, I would look for trades to the downside. Keeping in mind that each node below us could act as support and it could bounce at any point. So it could trade down to here and bounce. It could trade down to here and bounce, here and bounce. But I would be short monitoring for that poor low, as those do like to get repaired. Market's still heading on down to that second set of single prints. Internal's not looking bearish at all. Looking like we will find support in here. Miles says, what up, what up? The sky, my friend. The clouds, the raindrops. David, I missed the beginning. Would you say the overnight is balanced or net short? I didn't actually even mention it because I was more focused on those single prints. The market was definitely net short. I would say yeah, it was net short. Definitely. A lot of the shorts had been absorbed, right? So this was the total distance they went down, and they had already absorbed a big chunk of that. But this was clearly just a counter auction to that overnight inventory. And now the market's picked its direction, which is to repair the weakness left behind by Friday. Okay, heading on down to the single prints. Can we find support at the base? Vincent, good morning to you. Salmon River in the house. Good to see you. Aaron, good morning to you. Welcome. Jamie, good morning to you. Shalom Barb, good morning to you. Welcome. Good day. Design up. Blimey, old sea dogs. I don't feel like I have enough energy for that this morning. Blimey. Mangala, I learned about support and resistance in economics class in college. I don't really understand the context of that, but cool, bro. Rob, good morning to you. The gang's all here. Ready to make some money on a Monday. What? Okay, so the Nasdaq's ticks are looking a little bearish, but the rest is looking pretty neutral here. So I'm not overly bearish yet. Let's see what happens if they need to repair that overnight low. They could also find support right in this area here. So by like 17, if the base of the single prints at 26 doesn't hold. So those single prints are backfilled at this point, but I'm going to leave the line up here just so we can see it as potential support, so we know when that's breaking. Oof NQ. Let's take a look. What's so oof? And remember, the NQ, whilst it didn't have single prints yesterday, its entire push higher was on weak references. So they are all in need of repair this morning. Oops, too far. Okay, well, it did repair all those weak references. It had the weak G and H lows. It repaired those, put in a little bit of support there, but now it's breaking lower. So that is bearish. Last bit of support for the market is this node of volume from the from Friday, which ends at about 14,539. 14,547. If that low breaks, you're looking at further downside continuation with the Nasdaq, which makes sense. Even with the massive push higher that we had on Friday, Nasdaq is overlapping to lower on the value area, which is a signal that the market either needs to move sideways or lower moving forward. Let's see how the ES ended up in terms of that. Also overlapping to lower. So the value, remember Jim Dalton says we trade value, not price. Price is just an advertising mechanism. Value yesterday on Friday was telling us the market was either looking to move sideways or lower, which is why we did not want to FOMO in to the price moving up here. That was just a trick to get people to buy. They wanted to get these people long right here so that they could squeeze them to the downside. Okay, so far, this second set of single prints is holding its support, but we're pushing right back into what was the base of the I period single prints. So when support becomes resistance, that is bearish to see. So is that the case here now? Is this node of volume that was at the base of the single prints, is that now becoming resistance? 115 people watching, 39 likes. Let's see if we can get some thumbs up going in the chat. Sorry, person in the chat whose name I cannot read. Hello to you. And they are now saying it's too exact at the low. The one argument I'd make, obviously it looks like the market's going to go down and push lower here. But if there was ever an exact reference that can hold as a low, it's a base of a single print sub. That's like, it's very common that the market will come down, tag that, and then find support and continue higher. So I don't normally count that as weak. I count it as repairing the weakness that was left behind by these single prints. I'm not creating new weakness. But that being said, yes, it does seem like this market wants to push lower here. This support is becoming resistance. Internals don't look too bad though. Looks like the market's holding up, so could go either way. Plane crash noises? No, we're not in plane crash mode at all. Internals look good. Even on the NASDAQ, the ticks just were able to push their way back above the zero line. So that means more buyers are stepping in now than sellers. And they're starting to trend higher as well. So nothing to get too bearish about here. The market's just looking for a low. Oh, your name says Black Cat in Russian. Wouldn't it be more mysterious if you put it in English? Black Cat. So the way I see it right now, if this 43.26 level doesn't hold, I do think we're going to have more of a pullback down into this node of volume for support, down into a repair of the weak low left behind by the overnight. But it doesn't really feel bearish longer term because of the internals. So I'd really need to see, as I mentioned earlier this morning, I need to see us get down below this node here and then find resistance in it to look for continuation lower. Otherwise, it feels like the market's looking for support here. It's trying to bring in buyers. Bob, good morning. Anybody got any questions for the chat? Market's kind of boring here. It's trying to figure itself out. So to keep things interesting, because we're on the public YouTube, anybody have any questions for me? Anything that you've been pondering over the weekend you're dying to hear my perspective on? Erman boo hiss, theta boo. Theta boo, theta. Meet any cute boys in Brooklyn? No, sorry to let you down, Donkey. No feet pics for you. Crude oil's at an all-time high. All-time? Really? No, it's nowhere near an all-time high. Step back and look at the monthly. But one would expect with inflation, commodity prices are going to move on up. You also broke a downtrend. Right, that break often leads to a push, a new trend higher. Okay. Well, as the market gets ready to push its way lower here, we will begin the process of one time framing lower. We will also, if the market continues to bring in volume down here below the base of these single prints, we'll start to pull the value area, the blue shaded inbox, lower. Right now it's overlapping to higher, which is a neutral to bullish signal. But my guess is if the selling continues, we'll pull it inside of yesterday's value. But this does feel more neutral than bearish to me. So I'm always asking myself the questions, what is the market trying to do? And how good of a job is it doing? Well, it's clearly trying to push lower this morning, but it's not doing a very good job of it. A lot of buyers are stepping in. So I don't think it's overly bearish. I think it's on its way down looking for support, looking for buyers. Once again, if they can hold this node down here at 43.17, I could see that easily becoming support for a rotation back up. But if that level breaks, the market comes back up and finds resistance in here, I would short it to go repair that poor low left behind by yesterday, and then monitor for continuation on the way down, right? So each node of volume, the first one at 43.01, the next one at 42.96.75, and then the one down at 42.82.75. Any of those could act as support prior to repairing the poor low. Okay, the market is one time framing lower. News hitting the tape. James, what's the news? There's always some news hitting the tape. But does it matter? This is the question. Oil spill? Well, that's not good. Oh, you guys are saying that's why the spike in the oil price? Oil spill and China wanting to hoard their oil? Makes sense. Brian, ES feels like an inside day. Yeah, it could be. Feels like rotation. I could certainly get behind that argument right now. NQ is doing a good job of pressing lower. Yeah, if they got below yesterday's low and they're getting continuation. Oh, not quite yet. But yeah, so now this node of volume that we just built right here, so call it like 14,574. If that acts as resistance in every push back up, that would be bearish. And if we get below yesterday's low, come back up and find resistance there, that would also be bearish for continuation to the downside. So the internals are starting to roll over a little bit on us. Ticks are starting to trend down, and they're staying below that zero line. You got the advancers versus decliners. Just flip back around. It's heading towards its zero. And you got your first little green candle on the breath. So again, what we're looking for here to get short the market is to get below this node. And then when we push back into it, find resistance there. Right now, it's acting as support. So it's too early to go short here. The market could turn right back around and start heading higher on you. You really want to wait until what is currently support becomes resistance and then enter the short. Charles, why didn't you enter the short when the previous node became resistance up here? Right? You just watched this act as support, support, support. Then you got below it. It acted as resistance, resistance, resistance. Why didn't you go short there? Well, because at that point, the ticks were looking good. The internals were looking good. So the probability was about the same that it might turn around and go back up. Now with the internals flipping the other direction and starting to give us bearish signals, now my perspective is open to getting short, to trusting the price movement a bit more. So literally we're talking about right now, I'm looking for resistance in here. Do I think this is support? Jitten, do I think this is support? No, I don't. It's too early to say, but I just watched what happened, right? It pushed down into here, found support in there, but then when it pushed back up, it started to bring in the buyers, and as soon as the tick got above the zero line, it got smacked back down. So that is a sign that the upper end of this node, right around yesterday's POC, basically where we currently are, is actually acting as resistance. So I am not convinced yet, one way or the other. I will be patient, right? Like I said, if it's going to be resistance, they'll push below and then come back and find resistance in it. But if it's going to act as support, they'll just literally find support anywhere in here and shoot higher. So I don't have to enter the trade right now. I can wait. Great observation, Marco. That low on the NQ is still holding by the hair on its chinny chin. It's barely holding up the market. But this breaking should squeeze a little bit of the buyers who've been buying in down here out. So we should get a little boop boop. Back to the ES. I'll leave that question to the chat. Any FOMC today or this week? Anybody doing any talking? Any parading of anybody from the Federal Reserve anywhere? About the tick indicator, do you wait to close the bar or just see is it above or below the zero line? The answer is yes. I do both. I'm watching for how they close and where they close. More so sort of the shape and the direction. Is there a trend? So in this case, they're trending down. We're making higher lows. So that is something I watch. But I'm also watching in real time as the candle that's live at that moment. I'm watching how it moves. So does it, for example, this pink one over here, this red one over here, it pushed back above the zero line, but then it got pulled back down like a couple of times. So that's a sign to me that every time it tries to bring in buyers, sellers take over. So I'm seeing the candle as a downtrend, which is bearish, and the way it was moving as bearish. So it's a combination of the two. Salmon River. Facebook cares more about its profits than its users' well-being. Yeah, we've known that, right? We've known that for a long time. But yeah, that study or that release that you're talking about, the inside memos that got released, that came out like a month ago. But it's hilarious. It's like they literally did the research and they were like, "We're destroying 13-year-old girls' lives," and they were like, "Well, we're not changing anything." And now they're following the playbook of big tobacco. Corporations and their greed. It will never, ever go away. Okay. Well, I'm feeling bearish now as the market pushed up, found resistance. Ticks are trending lower. So I'm seeing this as the market needing to go lower to look for buyers. There is a chance we get some when we repair this weak overnight low. But odds favor that we need to pull back even more than that. So as I said, in a situation like this, I just go short and monitor for continuation. I don't necessarily put in a take profit order, right at this node of volume or right at this node of volume. I kind of just watch what happens when the market gets there. Does it seem like we're still bearish? Does it seem like we need to pull down to the next one? So you got support. First support is right here. Next support, like that. But instead of just taking profits, I'll literally watch what happens when it gets down here. Does it seem like the buyers are stepping in? If not, down here. If not, down here. And just keep continuing lower like that until we get to the poor low that we left behind for the day yesterday, which is a high probability need for repair. Okay. Almost all poor lows get repaired. I would say about at least 85% of them do. And of course, by the time that happens, we will have pulled the value area lower. The internals will be harshly bearish. So that's what we're watching for while we monitor for continuation. Arthur, again, brother, I don't give trade signals, but I did say if this support became resistance, it would be a good short to repair the poor low left behind by the overnight and then monitor for continuation lower. So I didn't say go short now, but I said it pretty clearly that I would go short in here with resistance and monitor for continuation to the downside. Okay, so here's that first node of volume that could act as support. So I'm watching what happens to the market when it gets there. Does it bounce off and immediately start to push the ticks above the zero line? Or do we continue the downtrend? If so, it's likely not to act like support, and we'll need to push down one further. Volume is getting thin here, though, so I would expect some backfilling. As I see these pink candles starting to come in, I look over at the ticks, but they're still trending down and they're still pushing lower. So that's more sellers piling on there as soon as they get a chance. David, if I understand correctly, do you always wait for retest of a given level, support resistance, before entering? I don't have a hard rule that I would never enter unless it was a retest, but almost always yes. It all just depends. This is something that's really hard to wrap your mind around when you're first introduced to it. But the more time you spend listening to me, hopefully the more clear it becomes. There are different circumstances for entering trades depending on what the market is doing, right? I'm not looking for any particular type of entry. I'm looking to understand what is the market doing. If I feel like the market wants to be rotational and it has a high probability that it's going to, then I might take a certain trade setup that I wouldn't take in any other scenario. And vice versa. If the market is clearly going to trend lower or trend higher, and it seems like it's absolutely certain, I'll look for a different setup than I would otherwise. So like if I had more certainty earlier this morning, I would have shorted this first node up in here and then monitored from continuation there. But I needed to wait to see us get below this one and then come back up and find resistance because of the way the internals started. So just today, this one time, this one random way the market looked, that made me feel like I needed more certainty to enter the trade short. So I didn't get in it here, but I did get in it here on the resistance. So it all depends day by day, case by case. Do I understand what the market is doing? How much confidence do I have in that? The trade setups are based on that. They're based on how confident I feel in my understanding of what the market is doing. Okay, so the market is continuing to sell off here, but same as yesterday, right? Same as Friday when it pushed higher and left all these single prints behind. Leaving this many single prints behind in the B period increases the odds the market will need to push back up to repair them at some point today. So I'm going to continue to monitor for downside continuation. But to me, it feels like still like the market is just looking for buyers so that it can go rotational sideways, more so than another big pullback today. So the target for the trade is the repair of this poor low. And I would want to re-enter another short if it got down here, repaired this, came back up and found resistance again. I would go ahead and take profits there and then look to re-enter on the resistance on the way up, right? As for that, I'm going to wish you all farewell. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for the 65 thumbs up. Wish we could have made it 85, but I'll settle for the 65. I'll take it. And I will head on over to the private stream. If you're not a Brigade member, there is a link in the description. It only costs $10 to join. You can cancel anytime. And you get to hang out for the full trading day. So I hope to see you all there on the private stream. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye. JTrader next level 280. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you got the nodes of volume from yesterday. So the next one's at 42.96, then 42.83. Those are potential support. And then the repair of the poor low. You've got all this volume just below from 2 nights ago, from Thursday night of last week. So likely odds are once you get that repair, you find some support and they try to start taking the market higher. If they get resistance from there, right, that is shortable once again for further continuation. Okay? Sayonara.